Day 20. A rather dysfunctional day, although not all is lost because I figured this out without my backpack. If I would have had my backpack along, the problem would have been quite a bit bigger. I tried to go south today using the public transport system. I went up until the Pinamuguan village, had a breakfast there, and tried to figure out there if I could drive further south to a village called Aluguanson. I couldn't figure that out in the village. I saw jeepneys driving, so I guessed. And what happens is that, and this is such a problem in the countryside, what happens is that, let me start at the beginning. What I've learned today is that the jeepneys only drive, and the public transport only drives if there's money to be made. If they can't earn any more money, they don't drive. As in, if there are not enough passengers, they don't drive. Which means that, and there's no schedule also, which means that there is some economic equilibrium in relation to when the jeepneys start driving and when they stop driving. And nobody knows that schedule. It's all guessing what they do. They say stuff like, well, I think there's something driving there at around that and that time. But they don't know. Nobody knows. This at least probably at least the entire Cebu Island, but I wouldn't be surprised that the entire Philippines, nobody knows how the public transport system works. It's just an open market thing. Which also means that the deeper you go into the countryside, the more scarce the buses and the jeepneys become. And you have to go over there and figure out if they are there, yes or no. But nobody knows. Now, as a Filipino, you can actually go someplace and figure it out, how things work. As a foreigner, you cannot. Because what I noticed at the village Pinumaguan, whatever the name is that as soon as I asked the question about the public transport, and then I need an immediate useful response, and if that isn't there, the rest of the conversation becomes useless. Because other people will get themselves involved into the conversation. Which means that people start asking questions I already answered, or people that decided to help you but don't know how to help you are going to lie to you. People that want to help you and know how to help you get snowed under by the other people joining the conversation. You're a white man. They see you as a walking ATM, which also means that there's going to be people that want to earn a quick buck on your ass. And they're not going to be honest to you. Meaning that a group conversation with all these different people in this organically, economically manifested equilibrium when it comes to public transport, they are communicating with you simultaneously, and it's utter chaos. You cannot figure out how the public transport system works. And as a white man, I most certainly cannot figure out how the public transport system works. Now, in the big city, this issue is less big because there's a lot of public transport going on there, and there's other white people around there, which also means that you can actually have somewhat of a normal conversation. But the deeper you go into the countryside, the more dysfunctional it becomes. So what happened in that village, Alugwansan, I wandered around there because I couldn't figure out how to get any public transport further down south. I realized that this isn't going to work. So I walked a few streets. Very poor village, by the way. Like really, really poor people living there. Much more poor than I've seen. And at around 2:30, 3 o'clock or something, I decided to go back. But even then, I could not figure out if the jeepneys still drive back to Pinunguanguansan, weet ik veel. So I took a scooter taxi driver back, and I think he lied to me because he said to me the jeepneys don't drive anymore. But on the way back, we actually passed a filled jeepney with people. I think he lied. It would have been worse if I left the hotel this morning and had my backpack with me. I figured this out on my own, and at least I saw the village. But if I want to use public transport to go further south, I would be better off going all the way around, going to Lutopan, Naga, Karkar, and that village down there, Esto van Flapperstein, I don't specifically recall, and then back west again. Even though there may actually be a possibility that some buses from Alugwansan actually drive south, but I can't figure that out. It just can't be done. If I have a local with me as a guide, I could figure it out, but as a white man on my own, I can't. And then I tried to, back here in Toledo, I tried to get some load for regular phone calls and SMS texts. Now there's so much advertisement when it comes to data selling that it's hard to recognize a store that actually sells load. And then finally I found a sign that said Smart, and then I asked if I could buy load there, and they said no, probably, because once upon a time they sold it and they stopped selling it, but they didn't remove the sign. Fucking assholes. And then there was this fellow that said at a 7-Eleven you can get that data. And then I went to the 7-Eleven, of course, and there was a machine sending load. But then I had to figure out that, and I asked that to that 7-Eleven fellow, and that 7-Eleven fellow said to me, you can use this machine. So I went to that machine, but then I had to figure out, no, I don't need data load, I need calling and SMS load. And of course, I needed guidance using that machine. Fortunately, there was another customer helping me to know which buttons to push. But then he figured out that that specific machine isn't connected to the internet, either temporarily or permanently. Which means that the fucking fellow at that 7-Eleven, he told me to use that machine, but he didn't tell me that it was either temporarily or permanently out of use. Fucking bastard. He sent me to that machine, having me figure out on my own that it doesn't work. Instead of him just telling me, well, there's this machine, but it doesn't work right now. Asshole, just tell me that. And now I'm back in the hotel. This country, man. Yeah. You have to do everything on your own. And the truth is that as a foreigner, it's a little bit more difficult to do that than as a local, because everybody's watching you. And there's always the risk of communicative chaos, and there's also always the risk of people trying to earn a quick buck on your ass. There's no way to get around it. The only way to get around it is to settle someplace relatively permanently and figure out how things work. As soon as you figured it out on your own, then you're good. But before that, you are in the chaos. You can't rely on anything in this country. The only thing you can rely on here is that you can't rely on anything. That's clear. I hope tomorrow is going to be better. But truth is also, and this is very true, as someone reminded me earlier this evening, it's part of the adventure.